Yuki Leap Bender continuing on her torrid run with Lexi Livewire. Going to be taking on Alexander Vore, 10-1 on Kano, really getting close to punching the ticket to that top 8.
Let's get real. This is ice versus fire in its purest form. Yuki Lee Bender on Lexi. It's basically that's it. That's the person that you want to be piloting that hero at 9-2, showing you how it's done. Wasting no time. We've seen Amulet Device and how important that is. And again, Alexander Vore saying, yeah, I got this promo at the pre-release, but I've never actually seen it in action. But there it is. And a lot of these Lexi players early on are not very aggressive, but there's a lot of things that they can do to filter their own hand and set themselves up. So in this case, dropping in an Amulet Device, loading up the blue Bolton shot in this case, and Alexander Vore has options on Yuki's turn as well. Yeah,
turn 0 is very much in play for Kano. We've seen the Kanos here take advantage of that all day. Yuki really likes big setups on the first turn, loves to get that 6-card hand working, fill up that arsenal. Do a quick arcane barrier check here, Flake. I think it's just going to be those bullseye bracers packing a little bit of incidental arcane barrier 1. You used to see Heart of Ice from time to time from Lexi's. Not the case this weekend. Again, just another in a long line of victims for Kano. Not really respecting the hero to the same degree it was, say, at the start of the Everfest meta.
Yeah, that's all you got to stop all this arcane damage coming through. Nothing else really going to help you out here. Also worth noting, Yuki in the previous matches was running the Snapdragon Scalers. In this case, to quote myself to John Blevins late last night, the Peach Cobblers.
Oh, the Peach Cobblers.
Yeah,
excellent.
Not the Perch Grapplers, the Peach Cobblers. That's what happens when it's like almost midnight and you've been up all day. You call them the Peach Cobblers.
Maybe looking to force a little bit more damage with those Peach Cobblers. Is Yuki Lee
I also managed to call it Rain Raisins by accident.
Okay.
So you could see what was on my mind last night.
Flake, very hungry apparently.
Yes. All right, starting off here. I mean, you can go nuts as Kano. We've seen it before. It's really a matter of just trying to bust down Yuki Lee, and when all you're looking at is the only arcane barriers from those bullseye bracers, keep in mind also the fact that that's the only arcane barrier means that Yuki Lee is not going to bust those. She's going to keep them up and ready to go the whole way through. So those are just there for show, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, if you bust those, you're committed. You're saying, I'm going to end this game right now. So there's a theoretical world in which it could happen, but you know how it goes against Kano. There's no safe window. Even if it's your turn, Kano can still blow you up. So you have to be really sure it's safe to go for it if you're going to leave yourself with Arcane Barrier. I'm with you, Flick. I expect those to stay around the entire game.
All right, so presenting 3 arcane damage over here, and I think Yuki's just going to go ahead and write that down and say, all right, I got you, no problem. Let's start it off as Alexander Vore has that mountain to climb of 40, but at 10-1. Is this the only 10-1 that's left in the field?
There may be one other 10-1 Flake. We will get some standings posted very soon. If you're following us over on Twitter, you can certainly get the updates there, but we'll do a little bit of display here on the broadcast as well. I think there's 2 10-1s at this point.
All right, so at 10-1 again, there we go. Just again, using some of that Kano magic. Yep. Going to go ahead and drop some cards on the board, and when they're banished, you can see them obviously, but they're accessible later based on the Kano ability. And Yuki, who is always in the driver's seat here, in many of the matches, just holding the tempo and at the wheel for most of it. In this case, it's a different story, and we haven't seen Yuki play. We've seen Yuki on stream. This is the 3rd instance of this, I believe, but we haven't seen her play against a Kano.
No, you're exactly right. And look, we didn't think it would be a critical matchup, Lexi versus Kano, heading into this event, but it turns out it is. We need to see what Yuki can do in this matchup. We mentioned a lot, Flake. Yuki is disruptive. She's trying to really leverage those ice abilities. We need to see what happens to Kano when Frostbites are slowing them down, and if Yuki, while doing that, can still produce that clock. I think she's pretty well set up to do it, despite the absence of Arcane Barrier. But I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't grind this matchup in testing heading into this event. I don't really know who has the edge here.
Well, that's it. I mean, when you're going into the Pro Tour and the weeks ahead of it, right after that banned and restricted announcement was fired off into the community, players are out there practicing against the most common matchups that they suspect, and this was probably not on their radar. Not that Yuki is in a bad spot. If you're playing an ice hero, we've seen it before where Kano players are typically just, send me the bill. Just, I'll write down the damage. It's no big deal. We'll deal with it later. But this has the added spice of Frostbite, and that could be exceptionally detrimental when it's a 2-card pitch to that Kano. But again, instant abilities, you can respond. So there's a lot of margins here where perhaps the Frostbite might not be completely detrimental, but it might push Alex into making decisions sooner than he may want.
Yeah, and I mentioned before, last time we did a Kano match, Kano does have some capacity to block. You may see that here with the on hits of Lexi. Something like a Blizzard Bolt that really just supercharges all the arrows for the turn. That's not going to be something that Kano just wants to eat. And if they know they're giving up their turn anyway, I think you'll see them put a lot of their resources into just preserving life total.
So Aether Spindle is presenting 4 here. I believe that I think that did connect, in which case
you are correct.
You are able here to just opt X, which is X is the amount of damage that was done. So that would be 4.
No better feeling as the Kano player if you just feel like the world is your oyster when you're setting up exactly what's going to happen over the course of your next turn.
Yeah, I mean, you're basically lining up the cards you want and tossing the garbage at the bottom of the pile. It's a beautiful, beautiful part of what Kano needs to be doing. You opting, it's just creating more reliability, more consistency here. And I mean, Brian, when you're opting here, what are you typically tossing to the bottom?
It depends. It depends what you're trying to do in the matchup, how you see your role. In general, you really want to prioritize blues. You want to keep those blues on the top of your deck. You're not quite ready for your big reds yet. You're not looking to really set up the Ether Wildfire turns. You know, there's scenarios where maybe you want to get exactly the right amount of cards on top. You float, say, an energy potion where you can just easily pop that off with the Kano ability. There's a lot of considerations, and it all depends what you reveal. And again, Kano looks like a straightforward hero, like, oh, set your opponent on fire. That's not really the case. There's always a lot of options for the Kano players.
All right, this is the start of the fireworks. It is the 3-of-a-kind turn. Again, every time you're playing against the Kano player, you have to say, is this okay?
Yep.
Can we play? Can I continue? In which case, Yuki, that's exactly what's happening. Double 3-of-a-kind!
This is a big hand from Yuki. This was already a 6-card hand, and now we've resolved 2 3-of-a-kinds. Yuki's going to let the fireworks fly on this turn.
So how deep are you going in this case? As Yuki has a 2x3, as it were, of dropping in, and look at, oh my God,
wow.
This is what you're doing.
You don't see hands like that in Flesh and Blood. 8 cards in hand.
No.
Yuki Liebender.
Halfway through a draft round, you'll have a hand like that.
Unbelievable.
Unfortunately, this is a different story, but I mean, a lot of those cards cannot be played. I believe there's 2 Art of Wars in the hand.
2 Art of War, yeah, and I saw some ice cards as well. So it's hard to draw 6 cards and be disappointed, but I think Yuki was expecting more from this. Let's see what she can pull out of this somewhat odd-looking hand. You're usually so happy to see an Art of War. That changes when you're under the lock of 3-of-a-kind, though.
But Yuki might be thinking here, if she basically just pulled all of the best cards, if there was like the ideal scenario here, she may have been considering, you know, the biggest problem here is how many arrows can you load into the arsenal and fire them off.
Right.
2 from Voltaire, you've got 1 already there, and perhaps you also have the bullseye bracers. This may have been a situation where she could have actually pushed 30 points of damage.
It's possible. You've got the Bolton shot in arsenal as well, so if you pump that up, that will also give you a reload. There's multiple ways for Lexi to go ahead and put stuff into the arsenal. And here's a pretty critical juncture.
Peach
We're going to
cobblers.
go ahead and pop those peach cobblers, see if we can push a little extra damage through on this turn.
I got to say, I might be a tad little hungry, but either way, there are the peach cobblers. As an action for 2, you can destroy them till the end of the turn. Face-up arrows played. Go again. That's so clutch because you are going to be loading a lot of those arrows face up with Voltaire, and go again is an important element to just make sure that is constantly, you know, you're constantly chaining together attacks, whereas you have basically almost like a 10 life head start where Yuki's used to trying to drive home the point against 40 life heroes. This seems like it's just a shorter trek for her, a shorter journey to the end.
Yeah, Yuki also going to push a Frost Lock here, and it's funny. I don't think that Yuki was thinking, oh, I really need to prepare for Kano, so I better pack my Frost Locks. But they're really, really good against Kano. Like one of the best cards you could possibly have in this matchup.
And this one, I believe, so it was fused. It's coming in as a +1 as well, in which case, hey, let's just get her done. Coming in for 4, which it gets part of the job done, and it was fused. The fusion on this means that if it hits, they can't pitch or play cards with base cost 0. And there's going to be a bunch of those in Kano's arsenal. Yeah,
I mean, that's a nice bonus, Flake, but what we're really into here is cards and activated abilities cost opposing heroes an additional resource this turn. we often say Kano refers to turns as our turns. Not so much when Frostlock is around. That makes things really hard. It's like a Channel Lake Frigid, and we've seen how much Channel Lake Frigid can slow down opponents. This is one contained on an arrow. And, it's a solid arrow, one that has fallen in and out of favor, but one that I'm sure Yuki is absolutely thrilled to have for this matchup.
Oh, this is when you basically walk into this matchup and you're like, thank God that somebody or myself, I convinced myself to put this in the deck. It's not an on-hit effect.
No,
it's just
there.
It's just there. And you see Alexander reading the card and saying, all right, okay, I see you. We'll see what we can do here. But Alexander also taking the 4, so the on-hit is on effect as well. The Bolton shot now coming through with, I believe that's just going to be, was that fired? Oh, yeah, it does have go again.
From the Peach Cobblers, yep.
From the Peach Cobblers, coming in for 2. Little cherry on top of the Peach Cobbler as well with the go again. So Yuki not done here. Activating the bow once has already happened. There may be a situation here where it was hard to see what other arrows were in the hand, but if there are 2 big-time arrows, maybe we see the bullseye bracers pop, but I don't think so.
So risky, Flake. It's so risky, and it's something that Yuki's going to have to weigh throughout this matchup. Is it ever worth that risk to push damage? This is an instance where I could see a block coming from Alexander, giving Yuki this free reload when things are so well set up for her in terms of everything else she can do. Being able to go ahead and use that Voltaire again to put another arrow in there, it could just really solidify her turn, but it looks like it's going to go through. We'll give her the option to reload here.
And that is a very key element, reload as well. A lot of times, the Ranger player's biggest hindrance is just finding ways to load up those arrows.
No, that's true, Flake. That's absolutely right. It's a little weird here in that the reload's going to load the card face down. You really want it to be face up. I do think Yuki still has her Lexi activation, though, to flip things that way. So it looks like it did hit. Yep. Oh, so here's the rub, Flake. I'm sorry. I was mistaken. Bolton shot, it doesn't have that ability in the default. You have to have greater base attack for both the go again and the reload. So no option to reload there for Yuki. Going to have to go ahead and use Voltaire. My mistake. Pathing Helix, on the other hand, going to come through. And I do believe that one's going to have go again and gives a chance to potentially reload that arsenal.
All right, so the situation here is that that's most likely that was played face up, so the Peach Cobblers are going to allow that to get go again because it was played face up. So Yuki going to load that bow at the +1 is my assumption here, and it's going to be a 5-point Pathing Helix, meaning that if there are no cards in Arsenal, which there aren't, she'll be able to go ahead and put a card face down there again, and then maybe that's the ice card that she slams in there and then can reveal it with
get
Lexi.
A little frostbite going. That doesn't sound bad at all.
So as it stands, Alexander Vore, again, typically you're going to see the Kano player do all kinds of shenanigans on the opponent's turn.
Yeah, but now it's time for blocking because of that on-hit. You don't want to let that go for free. Yuki's used her bow twice. Go ahead and cut off that arsenal if you can. And you're not going to be able to use these resources very effectively. I mean, possibly if you made it to the next turn with these in hand, there are some setups. You can do Sonic Boom stuff. That all sounds good. Sonic Boom is a nice card to just throw out there, try and get a little extra value out of it. But Yuki has done a good job forcing the issue on this turn and demanding a response from Alexander.
Yeah, Frostbite and all these on-hits, the fusions, etc., is really, it's such a bumpy ride for Kano, who is so used to just absorbing damage and getting the job done, but that's the way Lexi plays. Lexi can play in a very...
Like, look at this arena right now, and still, Yuki is fanning 4 cards across, letting you know she's still got a lot in the tank.
But that's the tough part about this, right, is that we saw that she had, 9 cards in hand, 9 cards in hand?
8 cards, yep.
But the problem there is that if you cannot maximize that big play, it looks amazing. Trust me, holding 8 cards in hand, but if you're only playing 3 or 4 and you're left with 4, you're leaving so much on the table. It's a lot more, it's the bark's worse than the bite in that case.
No, you're exactly right, Flake.
All right.
I saw Yuki just reach for that bullseye braces. She was debating actually cracking that and using that to fill back up the arsenal.
To go one more, but I feel like it's still not, it might not be relevant right now, but again, you got to trust in Yuki's, experience with Lexi. She has gone ahead. I believe she's using the Amulet of Ice here to because there was the fusion off the Frostlock, so that's gone.
Correct.
So it's basically a pay to or discard, right, in that case. And
yep. And Yuki still has an action point here, has to decide if there's something for her to do. She does not have her bow ready, so to load up that arsenal again, it would take the bullseye bracers. It looks like she's not willing to make that commitment. Just going to go ahead and arsenal here.
Yeah, and
pass the turn.
That's tough. Again, drawing, what was it, 2 Art of Wars that she drew, I think, from there. And, you're looking probably for a lot more arrows that you can fire off. And I think if she did find the perfect recipe of being able to push, 20 or 25 damage, you would have seen the Bullseye Bracers be popped, because she is at a life total now where she doesn't need the Arcane Barrier, and the next turn would have been probably good enough.
I don't think it's unrealistic to say that with a strong draw there, Yuki could have both frost locked and basically put Alexander out of the game and maybe won. It's completely possible she could have just blown Alexander up, which is terrifying if you're on the Kano side.
But right now she's positioning herself in this case to have a Tunic at 3 and an Art of War that will pay for it.
Correct.
So in which case, you can play the Art of War with the +1 or the Go again, get more cards in hand as well. Maybe you get a Rain Razors in there and really make it sting for Alex. But
Alex didn't do anything on that turn either. There's no option on the return turn. Just had to draw up and now figure out what's going to do on this turn.
Yeah, must be nice. Must be nice when the Kano player has basically played 2 turns and only done 7 damage to you.
And look at this one, Flake. That, I believe, is a Sleep Dart in Yuki's arsenal. And again, a card that, I don't think Yuki was saying, oh, I might be up against Kano, but this is really strong in this scenario. You can again force the action out of the Kano, say, if you want to do anything, you're going to do it right now while the Sleep Dart is present.
Precisely. That is exactly it. It's usually these Kano players want to pick and choose their spots in order to start popping off. In this case, just showing the Sleep Dart says, you go now or you don't go at all.
Yeah, I'm going to take a moment to read that card.
Education is powerful, ladies and gentlemen. You got to make sure that you are well versed in all the cards. And the best players in the world need to know not only their own decks in and out, but also everything else that they're going to be playing. And Art of War is a great way to start. Yuki, I believe, chose +1 on the option and banishing a card and drawing 2. So Yuki just playing with an 8-card hand, a 6-card hand. Let's just get crazy here.
Things are good if you're Yuki, all the options in the world. And you see Alexander just thinking, Sleep Dart? Frostlock? Are you targeting me? What's happening right now? Why is this going down?
Yeah, what's up with this? This is bullying.
Hey,
now.
There's a reason Yuki's sitting at 9-2 right now. Has been taking out those Starvos. We've seen that on stream, and now looking strong against this Kano, although nowhere near decided. We know what Kano is capable of, and Alexander has proven to be a master of the archetype. Very, very capable of producing a ton of damage out of nowhere.
I think I saw Yuki holding onto another 3 of a kind as well. And
that would be something.
The biggest problem I find is obviously when you're playing against Kano, it's 3 or 4 turns max. That's all you're going to get. And if you have those big plays like 3 of a kind, yeah, they're going to help you out. But if you don't draw them, it's problematic. Drawing them in the first couple turns and another Art of War on top of that, if she could chain this together with a really good 3 of a kind, look at her. She's just kind of looking at her hand saying, what do we do here? But it's starting off pretty nice.
It's looking like we're going +1 again, and I would assume we're banishing and taking 2 more cards. And Flake, if you're right and there's the 3 of a kind there, the resources available here are going to be something. I have not seen that yet. I don't know if there is a 3 of a kind available for Yuki. But this turn's starting off very strong.
I have been known to be wrong frequently.
Well, it's tough to spot like that. Oh, it's 3 of a kind. Okay, 3 more cards headed to Yuki's hand, and Alexander says, hold on.
What the hell?
Hold on a second. Let me take a look at this here graveyard.
Deck check. How many do you have? That's just, you know what? When you're destined for it, it happens. In this case, we saw the double 3 of a kind and coming back with another one. 2 Art of Wars this time and a 3 of a kind. Yuki is on a mission here.
Going to have a 5-card hand, Sleep Dart, ready in the arsenal, meaning the action's going to be forced. As soon as she fires off that Sleep Dart, that's it. Decide what you're going to do, Alexander. And honestly, you might have to try and win right now because Yuki is representing some serious damage giving those 2 Art of Wars.
These are kind of those dream scenarios where you come up against Kano and you know that you're not going to have a lot of latitude in order to really maneuver and pick up a win.
Yeah.
being able to find your Artivores and all three of a kinds in the first couple turns is
not
the
bad.
Dream, it's the dream scenario here.
Not bad.
So that is a Bolton shot, and it's going to get the bonus from the both Artivores, so that will generate not only the reload effect but also the free go again.
Yeah, also getting the bonus from Voltaire, so it's going to be coming through 4-7. Still 4 cards in hand for Yuki, as well as that sleep dart, choosing not to fire the sleep dart off first. And I get that. You want to give Alexander the time to commit some resources, leave some uncertainty in the turn. So I like exactly what Yuki is doing here.
Dude, that is a 7 for 0 go again and a free reload on hit.
Not bad.
And Alex is just, all right, mark it down. I mean, that's not the one that he's worried about.
Yep. No reload there, Flake, because there is a card in Arsenal. Yeah, of course, have to have a clear Arsenal to take advantage of that. So it looks like we've got another pitch here, going to activate Voltaire a second time.
And in this case, this might be go again, depending on the arrow that's coming through. Yuki just evaluating her options here. She's got 3 cards left in hand, 1 floating resource. She did use one of those resources to activate Voltaire. She'll have to decide in what method. So there's 2. There's the Artivores are providing additional 2 attack to this arrow. I'm not sure what other arrows she's holding on to in this case. But again, the sleep dart is the looming threat here.
Yeah, and you know what, Flake, I guess it makes sense that the sleep dart can't start the chain. Obviously, it does not have go again inherently, and it went into the arsenal last turn. So there's no way to really load it up as the start of your turn. But still, at some point, that's got to be real threatening. Here comes a Blizzard Bolt from Yuki Lee Bender.
Yeah, and it's going to get the benefit.
+2.
Yeah, the +2. The previous ones, again, the Frostbite tokens are what are threatening on this. And it's, again, not just this one. It's every subsequent attack. But, frankly, even the Frostbites mean nothing if the Sleep Dart shuts off your Kano in that regard. This might be another situation where Alexander has to turtle up.
I think so. Like I said, if there's a matchup where I expect Kano to be doing a little extra blocking, it's probably this one. You don't want to let these on-hit throughs. Something's going to mess up this turn, though, for Alex.
All right, so reading the card here, the Blizzard Bolt, again, is every subsequent attack, Blizzard Bolt, and that's a pair of 7s. We got a pair, so we got a 3 of a kind, a pair of 7s.
Full house, baby.
Yeah. Dear gosh, I love it. I love it. That's not bad. I mean, 7 on-hit effects and a sleep dart.
Wow, now I want a gambler class, Flake.
There's gambler's gloves?
Yeah, I want a full gambler class. Just committed to the idea.
Bet you there won't be one. I'm sorry.
I'm not participating in this.
I will just remove myself after the broadcast. All right,
Thank you.
Talismanic Lens is going to be used here to opt to. Maybe Alexander Vore says, this is not the turn for me, even though it's not his turn at all. But this is just not the turn for me, so we're going to fix the next turn, drop to what we need. Again, opt, such an important element to this, to Kano.
Yeah, there's 2 possibilities here. You're fixing the next turn, or you're like, I'm a little scared of what else is coming on this turn. I'm not sure I can survive, and I need to know whether I should be blocking or trying to fire off the absolute Hail Mary with Yuki at 33 life and some Arcane Barrier available with cards in hand.
We've seen in the previous matches, those, when it was, I believe it was Hayden Dale versus Michael Karankia, where it was a situation of that Hail Mary, and there were some tough situations. But, I mean, Armada, who's very well versed in Kano and Wizard in general, just mentioned that it's not out of the realm of possibility. If all the stars align, you can get that to happen.
You can kill from any life total, Flake. It's always on the table. Things have to break extraordinarily well, but it's always on the table.
There was like a Battle Harden or a Calling somewhere several months ago where there was a turn 0 kill.
I think it was a ProQuest.
Yeah, ProQuest.
And it was eventually won by that Kano player.
There you go.
They killed someone on turn 0, yes.
So it is absolutely possible. Again, the stars have to align. Everything has to sort of hold hands and sing Kumbaya for that to happen. In this case, it's a little bit more difficult for Alex, who's already on 10 and staring down just this onslaught of arrows.
Yep. And Sleep Dart is going to connect, but looks like Alex's turn is basically done here anyway. So Sleep Dart, very threatening, but not actually achieving all that much there.
Okay, but let's be real. Alex now has to kind of breathe a sigh of relief. I've seen all 3 of a kinds, right?
Yeah.
I've seen 2 Artivores,
Sure.
right?
That's worth a lot.
The arsenal isn't all as terrible as I may think it is. The Sleep Dart's gone.
I'm going to mention one card that Alex hasn't seen, though. And that is Rain Razors. So if I'm afraid of any card in this spot, it's probably Rain Razors. Play here from Alex looks like Potion of Deja Vu. This is a cool one, Flake, and we talked about that potential to push insane damage. Potion of Deja Vu can be a big part of that. Of course, allows you to take your pitch zone and put it in the top of your deck. Another critical tool for setting up those huge Kano turns.
Yeah, basically. Hey, let's do this one all over again, right? Yep. And it's Deja Vu all over again. That's going to be put on the board. And yeah, that's just an action. There's no go again off that.
Yuki unable to get the Frostbites from the Lexi ability thus far, unfortunately. I think that would be a very big deal for her to be able to go ahead and just slow down Alexander a little bit for free. So far, though, only flipping up things like Bolt and Shot.
It certainly would. Alexander can always respond to the Frostbite and do all his shenanigans there, but that puts him in a position where it has to happen from maybe at a point in the turn where Alex doesn't want to pop off yet.
No, I think you're exactly right. And here we see Yuki pitching that Channel Lake Frigid. Interesting. A very important tool in the matchup, but you got to get your blues where they come. And if that's the blue you have access to, sometimes you just have to go ahead and pitch that to get some offense going.
I think what Yuki is more inclined to do here is just to continue the pressure. I think what Yuki wants to do is not necessarily play it safe, because you can't necessarily play it safe against Kano. You need to, if she smells blood in the water, you got to continue chumming up those waters. Keep going. You know, you got to continue the pressure here, and a Pathing Helix again as a 4 for 0.
And there's that Sleep Dart again. Going to go ahead and try and push some more damage, take away the Kano ability for the rest of the turn.
And hello, Lethal. That's 5. Any on hit here is going to be nasty. So we're going to have a nice discussion amidst himself of, all right, is it night time again? How are we gonna resolve this? Because it is presenting lethal.
Yeah, and look at Alex look up to the sky just under an onslaught from Yuki Lee Bender. Don't worry, Alexander, you're not alone in that. We've seen Yuki put absolutely everyone to the test today, constantly firing out sheer unchecked aggression as well as a little bit of disruption.
I want to know who these two are. Who are the two that beat the Ice Queen?
I don't have the answers for you, Flake, and I don't know if anyone's going to add to that too, given how impressive Yuki has looked thus far. Alexander doing his best, though, trying to find a way out from under the extreme pressure of Yuki Lee Bender's Lexi.
Okay, so presenting some blocking here.
Yeah, Reverberate going to go ahead and play a little defense, soak up some of that Sleep Dart damage. That is it for the Kano ability for the turn.
All right, and in the same regard here, that's the Kano ability is shut off. The damage is done. We're down to 3, presenting another Bolt and Shot that was already revealed in the arsenal, so there's no benefit from Voltaire to either give this go again or to pump it up by 1. That's not the point here. The point here is that I think Yuki just is sensing that she's so close. That's why she pitched this CLF. It's not about playing it safe. It's about playing to win in this case.
Yeah, push that damage. Threaten Alexander. Say, you got to go, buddy. You can't take any more time setting up, finding these key potions like Potion of Deja Vu, Energy Potion, things like that. You don't want Alexander to get the time. And it's a second Potion of Deja Vu being pitched here, used to juice a snapback a little bit, just looking to get a little chip damage in and get Yuki's life total a little bit lower.
And you mentioned it earlier. The other thing that Alex has to be aware of is Rain Razors.
Yeah, have not seen one yet.
But if Yuki had it in that previous turn, that would have been game.
It would have been a wrap. Absolutely.
So here we are. It's a snapback 4 coming through again, bumped up by that wizard staff, that beautiful, wonderful wand, just adding a little bit of more hocus pocus to the party here. And yeah, and Yuki's just kind of taking a look. All right, Deja Vu, no problem. Let's get this back in our brains, because there's a lot of cards in this entire tournament, frankly, that we've seen, be it Imposing Visage or Imposing Visage. The Deja Vu. There's a lot of cards that we've seen that kind of are a little, I don't want to say unorthodox, but we don't see them very much. So there's Frostlock is another one.
Yeah, it's been a real display of creativity from our players all day here. You know, Yuki's entire deck, honestly, falls under that category, just where nobody else believes in Lexi. She showed up, had a plan for seemingly every matchup, including Kano somehow.
All right, so she's going to be activating the Lexi, revealing another Bolt and Shot. No problem. I mean, it's not about the the Frostbite effects or the Lexi ability, which she's kind of, I don't want to say whiffed on, but she hasn't had the benefit of generating Frostbites towards the Kano from the Lexi ability. This is merely about using the New Horizon to open up more arsenal slots.
Correct. Correct, and that's not optimal. You would prefer to get a little bit more out of it, but
Ooh.
you take what you can get. Endless Arrow going to be the play here. That's going to get go again from Voltaire, forcing lethal. So again, Alexander, do you want to block, or do you say time to go?
4, again, an awkward number, and Kano has honestly just been on the back foot this entire match. Kano hasn't necessarily presented those explosive turns. Usually Kano's just like, no problem, like brush it off, water off a duck's back. I want to be the one dealing the damage. I can output so much more damage than you can, but when Lexi comes to play and it's Yuki at the helm, there's going to be disruption, there's going to be creativity, there's going to be so many uncomfortable situations, and in this case, Endless Arrow is just another one of those situations of, do I really want this to, like, you can only block 3 at the very least. You gotta respect this. There's nothing else that you can really do. The Kano player has been on the back foot the whole game.
Flake, that means it's go time. And this is a great way to start off go time. Blazing Ether going to go ahead and be the banish from Kano. Combine that with the right tools so things can get out of hand real quickly here. I know 29 sounds like a lot, Flake, but as soon as I saw that Blazing Ether, I started thinking maybe that's not as safe as you might think it is.
Yeah. To steal a Seinfeld quote here, whenever it's go time, you think you're better than me? You think you're Mandelbaum. And, I mean, you're right. It is go time. When lethal is presented, that's when that rabid Wolverine starts to claw back, and you've got to get creative. So it's time to start peeling cards off the top and crossing your fingers. Yeah,
we're going to get to banishing, and it looks like Snapback Red was the other banish. Gaze the Ages also another banish. This is a really good setup, Flake, because that Gaze the Ages can come back to turn after something is deployed.
And all those ops that occurred, there were cards drawn and such, but this has kind of been part of that setup, right? Is in terms of making sure that the cards you're ripping off the top are very helpful.
Yeah, and Flake, this is wild. So Blazing Aether has been cast, but in response to all this, we're going to do a bunch of stuff, including Tome of Aetherwind, which could now restack should they want to, and just really bust this game wide open.
So again, we've seen this countless times this weekend, that whole passenger mentality of the player playing against the Kano, presenting lethal, it's just now, do I have it or do I not? It's kind of like, you're just waiting for the answer. And in this case, that Endless Arrow is suspended in this like stasis animation, waiting to either connect or fizzle and not even matter.
Yeah, also in stasis is this Blazing Aether. How much damage is it going to pop off for when it finally does resolve? And you see what Alexander is debating now. Is it time to go ahead and crack this Potion of Deja Vu? Looks like the answer is yes, and with 2 draws potentially available, that's just going to be exactly the hand that Alexander wants. Is it lethal, though? That's always the question. Is it lethal? Is lethal present in this pitch stack? There you see, Ether Wildfire has been pitched. That's always the key piece, Flake. And if you line this up perfectly, I believe the damage is there. You just have to figure out exactly how to do it, how to play through Arcane Barrier, and then we'll see exactly what's going to happen as we're certainly in our final turn of this game between Yuki Lee Bender and Alexander Vore.
You got to figure out when you're playing against a Kano player like this, and even if you do lose, you have to give credit to the fact that a lot of these wins seemingly come out of nowhere to a degree. They just materialize out of thin air where you are so confident that there is absolutely no, I have 30 health, you've got 2, I'm presenting lethal. How many more rabbits out of a hat are you gonna pull out? Like that's where it comes to.
And look at this, like Gaze the Ages off the top, as we knew. That's going to go ahead and put 2 cards on the bottom, and it's going to return to hand, which is trouble for Yuki Lee Bender.
Lots of cards sliding around the table, but I mean, you have to be sure of and aware of what's going on. Not that anybody's out here to try to pull a fast one, but at the same time, you want to be aware of what is being presented and how it's being presented, because perhaps you do have a way through to sneak something in. There's the Eye of Ophidia. Now, this is, again, a beautiful Fabled card, something that a lot of people kind of hunt for, but the fact is that this is blue pitch that allows you to have the extra benefit of opt, and we've seen how crucial that is.
How about another tome? How about that, Flake? 2 more cards off the top with that Blazing Aether just sitting there, ready to go. This turn is about to get out of control.
I am speechless. I am without speech. I have no speech.
Look, Alexander hasn't accomplished a whole lot quite yet, but it's coming. There's something there where Alexander is going to be able to leverage this Blazing Ether, leverage all of this card draw, leverage that Ether Wildfire that we know is present, and potentially present some lethal.
So how much of this, I mean, at a certain point, this just looks like a lot of spinning your tires. Eventually, Alex is going to have to find some traction here and take off, because it's just been a lot of revving of the engine, a lot of just, it's a lot of smoke and mirrors without any actual substance. But this is all just prep work. And like you mentioned, starting off with that Kano specialization is the way that you want to sort of kick off the turn. But we've seen a lot of creative accounting. We've seen a lot of card shuffling, a lot of opting, a lot of playing, but we haven't seen any damage being presented. So at what point is there actual substance to this turn? At what point is all the noise going to turn into an actual dance party?
It's a good question, Flake, and obviously it's got to happen at some point. Not there yet, though.
No, but I mean, again, look, if you just have a look at like Yuki's eyes, it's just, all right, like, I'm going to take a look at my hand. If these cards change, nothing's happened, you know? It's cold out here. It's just, if you're not moving your engines a little bit, you know, you could get a little bit nervous. You can kind of, she's just like nodding along. Yeah, keep going. Like, until something's coming to me and I have to make a decision. How much of this is just, you know, shuffling your deck with extra steps?
Some degree of it is, but here's my answer to that, Flake. It is until it isn't.
Yeah.
And as soon as you're ready to go as this Kano player, we've just seen, I mean, look, there's another Ether Wildfire. There's just such incredible tools available to Alexander here. You have to figure out how to put them all together. And this is one of those mind-melting Kano turns. Look, I'm a decent Kano player. I know my way around Kano. I've won my share of matches. I am not equipped to handle this turn. This is the reason why, if it was the Pro Tour, I would not be brave enough to register Kano, because something like this feels almost impossible to navigate. And you can almost see the stress mounting for Alexander, just trying to figure out exactly how he navigates through this turn and pushes that damage, which has to happen now.
It comes down to a situation where, like, Alex is trying to light a fuse.
Yeah.
And that fuse has been burning. How long is that rope until the explosion occurs?
Well, here's step one, Flake, and it's Ether Wildfire looking to push 4 damage. And I think we're going to see Yuki do something here. Yes, going to use a resource, Bullseye Bracers, preventing
and
one of that arcane damage.
So that's resolving. Now it's back to step 1, and that's back on the stack. That needs to get some attention, right?
Yeah, time for Storm Striders to be popped. Now it's time for another Ether Wildfire. And that means that when that next Ether Wildfire pops off, and when that Blazing Ether pops off, the damage numbers, I'm not trying to do the math, Flake. I'm not a math guy. We know you're not a math guy.
No.
It's a lot. There's a lot of damage being offered right now. And we have to figure out exactly how much is going to be pushed. I mean, that Blazing Ether potentially getting a bonus, 11 damage added onto it, to say nothing of the damage already done?
No, this is, I mean, one of those, I wouldn't call it necessarily a Hail Mary. You know, there's a lot of calculation involved. There's a lot of setup involved. And Alexander Vore at 10-1 is no slouch when it comes to Kano. There is a judge call going on here, so there is a fairly extensive discussion being happening here. We're trying to get word on exactly what that's about, and when we can let you know, we'll certainly pass along that information. But something was brewing there for sure.
No, and they're going to try and sort that out. I'm going to let you know, folks, it's going to be a little while. Exactly what's happening, it sounds like there is a discrepancy in how many resources are available for, I believe, the Kano player. And what this has led to is a massive reconstruction of this turn as we try and figure out exactly where things are at.
All right, so that's getting resolved, and like you mentioned, and resources in that case where a lot of those blues are absolutely necessary. If there's one floating or one not there, that might be that could be the difference between pitching 1 card or pitching 2, which could then change the entire dynamic of the game. So they're getting that sorted out. They're just sort of going through the books, as it were.
What a tease to our viewers. I apologize. I know you see those 2 Ether Wildfires sitting there ready to combine with Blazing Ether, and you want resolution. Well, guess what? I got good news. We're ready to go ahead and figure out exactly who's going to win this match between Yuki Liebender and Alexander Vore with That's 7 arcane damage Ether Wildfire sitting out there. And it looks like Snapback also going to go ahead and get into the party here.
Well, I mean, the life total you're going to see is going to start to absolutely evaporate.
Yeah, and that Snapback is for 10. And look, that Blazing Ether is still sitting there, Flake. If this gets through, how does Yuki survive this? I just don't think she can. I think Alexander has done it here.
This is impressive, absolutely impressive. A 10-1 record is exactly because of plays like this, patience like this, setting up your turns like this. This is godly. And in the corner of my eye, I see DM Armada, who looks like he just saw someone eat their own head. He is in another dimension of just amazement. This is Kano at its most dangerous.
Flake, 19 has flown onto that Blazing Ether. 19. Nope. Oh! How about a few more dice there? It looks like we were looking at a 28 damage Blazing Ether.
Oh my gosh!
And Alexander Vore has pulled it out at the last possible second. All right.
I look, we're all right, man. Just shake it off. It's all good. Frankly, I mean, Kano ain't the magician you bring to the birthday party, all right?